it before.
They've seen everything before. Paul Johnson has seen every wrinkle thrown at his offense.
They're really good at math, too, so those decimals won't be a problem.
Wanye Thomas to return. The kick goes out of bounds just in front of the pylon at the 3-yard line, and Georgia Tech will have good field position. Paul Johnson has a great feel for the game. He is an offensive savant. He will rotate quarterbacks depending on who gives him the best chance. He'll start with Taquan Marshall, senior from Hamilton, Georgia, population 1,200, just north of Columbus at a Harris County High School. 14th in school history in rush yards, 10 100-yard rushing games. Georgia Tech's production mainly comes from its quarterback position when it comes to the ground game. He's run for 857. He's thrown for 755. Jerry Howard, the B-back. Clinton Lynch is the A-back on the right side. And Quay Searcy on the left side. Marshall will keep it and take it for 6.
Discipline, discipline, discipline is the word of the day. Talking to Kirby Smart and Mel Tucker, the defensive coordinator for Georgia. Each one of these linebackers, each safety as they play closer to the box, will have one, possibly two guys they're looking at. They do one thing, that changes your responsibility. So discipline on the backside as well as discipline with having a man-for-man for each option that Georgia Tech has, extremely important.
Safety sneaks up on 2nd and 5. It's a give to Jerry Howard, and he is swarmed after a gain of 2. Georgia Tech head coach Paul Johnson will send Quay Searcy in with another play. He's in his 11th season as a head man on the flats. He's won 59% of his games, and he's won 2 in a row here in Athens. And now they face a 3rd and 3. Straight ahead, Jerry Howard, and he picks up the first down.
That's really the bind that this offense will put you in. If you're a fan sitting there, you're like, well, I knew that was coming, the dive, right? Why don't you stack the box, stack the line of scrimmage in those A-gaps? Well, you do that, and the quarterback and the option man are going to get on the edge. You really can't overload one gap, one side. You have to play balance. You have to stick to your keys. That's why it's so frustrating for Mel Tucker and this defense.
Georgia defensive coordinator, 1st and 10 Jackets. A check by Marshall, the quarterback. Give to Howard, and he takes it to the 49 on a gain of 4. Jonathan Ledbetter with the tackle. Kirby Smart went 3-1 against Georgia Tech as a player. Had an interception of Joe Hamilton in the '96 game. 3rd season as the Georgia head coach. But he was quick to point out, back then when I was playing, they didn't run this offense. It has been a point of contention. It is a thorn in Kirby's side that they have to prepare for this offense, and they do it literally year-round. To throw for the first time, Marshall chased, and he will lob it up to the sideline. He found a water bottle. That was it. Michael Barnett brought the pressure.
They do prepare for this offense in the offseason. Take a couple days in fall camp as well. They have a specific coach that's breaking down film weekly. But when you're a player, it's really like a college final. You're cramming the week of, if you're lucky, a few days the week prior for this offense. So you have a lot of information to get in a short amount of time to learn how to stop this defense. A way to do it, though, get them into 3rd and medium, get them into 3rd and long. Not what this offense is built for.
3rd down, 6 at midfield. And Marshall takes it just shy of the line to gain, and he lost his helmet. So Tobias Oliver, if they choose to go for it on 4th down, will come in at quarterback. He lost his helmet because it got ripped off after the play by Michael Barnett. It's one way to get the quarterback out.
And Tobias Oliver trotting in. He's actually the better runner, so going for it here on 4th and short. Had a couple dives up the middle. Wouldn't be surprised they get Oliver going off tackle with a fake to the dive.
Movement from everybody except the center and the quarterback.
And they were going off tackle there. It's a tough thing with a new quarterback in there. The cadence sounds a little bit different. Everybody ready but him in the center.
Ball start. Offense.
Ken Williamson, our white hat today. Paul Johnson not happy.
And new cadence coming in. You see they were going off tackle to the left, as I suspected, with the faster, more mobile Tobias Oliver at quarterback. That's a mental mistake. Can't have that. Backup quarterback's got to go in, be able to snap the ball at the very least.
Connor Hansen, the right guard, was the first to move for Tech. So now the Jackets will punt it away. Terry Godwin back at his own 10 for Georgia. Presley Harvin, leading the ACC in punt average, will kick it away. Fair catch asked for and taken at the 12. 38-yard punt by Presley Harvin III. Georgia back on offense when we return to the Classic City. By wins, the better the 2005 class. 2 East Division titles, an SEC championship, a Rose Bowl championship, and still chasing the national title. Elijah Holyfield in the game of tailback for Georgia. And Holyfield takes it a few yards on the left side. Let's get you to the studio. We say good afternoon to Peter Burns.
Good afternoon, Tom Hart. Ohio State has won 13 of the last 14 games against Michigan, and this is the way to start it. Dwayne Haskins finds Chris Olave for the touchdown. 7-0 Buckeyes. Back to you boys in Athens.
PB, thanks. 2 games running concurrently that will have an impact on the college football playoff. Georgia right now on the outside looking in as the 5th ranked team in the country. They look really good and really fast. Elijah Holyfield, the new deal down the sideline, and a Georgia first down on a 39-yard gallop.
Boy, great block here by the left guard, Solomon Kinley, to really seal this. Wasn't much he had to do here. Late shift by the defensive front for Georgia Tech. Kinley does a great job of washing that guy out of the way so Holyfield could spring loose. Good to see him healthy back out there after we weren't sure about that injury earlier.
Replaced by Swift. Fromm fires over the middle. That's complete for another Georgia first down. Charlie Werner on a gain of 14.
Going back to that last run play, Jordan, this offense expects the Georgia Tech defense to move around a lot. Just a little draw there, and when the defense is going to take themselves out of a play, you don't have to get a ton of movement. It leads to an explosive play there for Holyfield.
That's kind of the double-edged sword. I mean, if you're Georgia Tech, you have to move up front because you can't just stand there and get pushed around by an offensive line that has the physical advantage. But when you do move, you leave A gaps, you leave B gaps wide open, like what we just saw.
Here's Swift. DeAndre Swift upended by Malik Rivera. Transfer from Wofford on a gain of 5.
You know, it was interesting, guys, yesterday to hear Georgia offensive coordinator Jim Chaney say, we are a north-south run football team, but they haven't been that in every game this season. When they've dedicated themselves to it, they've been dominant. Looks like they're trying to beat that team here early this afternoon.
What a task to replace the greatest rushing duo in college football history. DeAndre Swift and Elijah Holyfield have filled in nicely, but obviously not as explosive as this offense was last season. 4 different starting alignments across the offensive line, one of the reasons. 2nd and 5. Swift cut back. Another Georgia first down. Brent Mitchell finally brings him down after a pickup of 7.
Georgia's offensive line right now is setting the tone. They're getting upfield, getting bodies on bodies. Those holes, the holes are pretty big. What I loved about this pre-snap, Jake Fromm, this is a run play, and Jake Fromm is changing the mic point, which changes the blocking scheme up front. A lot of quarterbacks don't do that. That's the job of the center in most offenses, but Jake Fromm is so cerebral. He'll go up there, and he'll change the point to make sure they have the angles in the run that they need.
Swift again, nothing doing there. But we saw in that replay, DeAndre Swift was talking to Fromm. What could Swift, was he asking or was he just repeating?
Probably making sure that Jake didn't flip the play or change the run, because Jake didn't change the run there. He was just changing the way it was blocked, changing which linebacker those double teams go to. As you can see, Lamont Galliard and Solomon Kinley figuring it out as Fromm is pointing that out. So just make sure he's on the same page of what's going on when he gets the ball.
Georgia loses ground for the first time today. It's Holyfield at tailback now, facing 2nd and 11. Georgia, the 10th ranked rushing offense in the country, not looking like it the last 2 plays. Tech with the stop. David Curry coming up from his linebacker's spot. And it's going to leave 3rd and 10. Most defenses would love to be in a 3rd and 10 situation. Not Georgia Tech's. They are last in the country in conversion rate for offenses on 3rd and 10 or longer. The national average is 19%. Georgia Tech allows conversions on 42% of 3rd down and 10 or longer. Fromm looking, converting, and it is right at the marker to Isaac Nauta. And it'll depend on the spot. It looks like he's going to be just a hair short.
I love the play call. Tight splits by the tight end. Creates a lot of green grass on the outside. A well-thrown ball. See where his... I think he steps out before that first foot hits the red. It's close.
And so timeout for a measurement. You've got an automatic in Rodrigo Blankenship. You're looking at 4th and inches, or with the 10th ranked rushing offense in the country, you stay out there.
Yeah, I think you stay out there. I mean, you're up 7-0, scored on your first possession. The offensive line, minus a couple plays on this drive, have been getting solid push up front. It's going to be 4th and a few inches. I'm saying go. Make Georgia Tech, if you don't get this, go the length of the field. Waste some more clock. Already got the lead. Set the tempo, set the tone of this game for these seniors in a place where Georgia Tech's beat you the last 2 times they've been here. Set the tone early. I'd go for it.
Blankenship was on the sideline trying to move out towards that huddle. 18 of 20 on the season. He hasn't missed inside the 30 all year. He is perfect on point afters. Let's see what Kirby Smart and Jim Chaney decide to do.
Well, with the size difference you have for Georgia, I mean, is there anything better than a quarterback sneak right here? I mean, wedge those interior offensive linemen together. Got to think you can get a few inches at worst.
Georgia's 4 of 7 on 4th down this season. They're going to leave the offense on the field. Fromm chatting with everybody as they come to the line. It's Swift in the backfield. And Georgia picks it up with a quarterback sneak. Why not? He's 6'2", 220.
Absolutely. You have the size advantage up front. Both those offensive linemen he just ran behind are 310 plus. Kinley's almost 340. It's an underrated play there. The quarterback sneak gets lost in this day and age where most quarterbacks are in the shotgun. And to me, you got a few inches, that's almost a guarantee. You got the size that Georgia does up front.
So 1st and goal, Dawgs, 2nd possession of the game, and Georgia trying to add to their lead. This is the 10th play of the drive. Swift cuts his way straight up the middle. And that'll set up 2nd and goal from the 1 for the Dawgs. His dad, Darren, having a hard time showing off his guns today with all the layers on a chilly Saturday afternoon.
Saw a big benefit of Jake Fromm checking that play at the line of scrimmage, Jordan, because the Georgia Tech defense stems late. They move the defensive line late. A nice way to be able to make sure you're in the right play.
Fromm is a perfect 6 for 6. He's thrown for 1 touchdown already. That was to Riley Ridley. 11th play of the drive. Swift dances behind the line, surges forward, and powers his way in for another Georgia touchdown.
Two incredibly efficient drives by Georgia, just running the football. I mean, they're just lining up and saying, we are more physical, we're bigger than you, we're going to grind this game out just the way you want to. These are picture-perfect drives if you're offensive coordinator Jim Chaney. Jake Fromm throwing it 6 for 6 already in this game, and they're running the football extremely effectively.
Blankenship nails another. Georgia's had 2 offensive possessions. We've got a flag on the point after. DeAndre Swift, though, with the touchdown run, his 9th rushing touchdown of the season. And Georgia's decision to go for it on 4th and inches with the quarterback sneak gave him 7 instead of 3. Check with Kirby Smart what he wants to do with this penalty.
Holding, defense, penalties declined, point is good.
It was a tough decision, like dark meat, white meat, dark stuffing, dressing. What's the argument here? So they'll apply it later. DeAndre Swift has a touchdown. Riley Ridley has a touchdown catch. Number 5, Georgia leads their rivals 14-0. Thumped off sides, it forced a punt. And the Dogs, 11 plays and 88 yards later, extended their lead. Monte Thomas back to receive for Georgia Tech. Blankenship has been a touchback machine. From a yard out, a yard in, pardon me. And he's got room to the outside. Monte Thomas back up the hashes. He's in a race with Blankenship. Chase, and they finally get him, but it is a step too late. 100-yard kickoff return for Monte Thomas. His 2nd straight game with a kickoff return touchdown. And Georgia Tech special teams get him back in the game.
That is the answer they needed. And this is why I mentioned, not only when you're on the field as a defense, but even in special teams, discipline is so important. They lose contain on the outside. One cutback. Can't give these athletes green grass. They'll make you pay for it. He goes down short, but it depends where that ball is.
See if the ball broke the plane when the knee was down. Tremendous effort, by the way, by DeAndre Baker to track him down.
To me, it looks like he's leaning a little bit.
And I don't know that we have a
none of these
clean look that will give you indisputable video evidence. Well, that one, it looked like the top of his body was over the line when the knee was down.
I mean, if he's leaning at all, that ball is at least breaking the first part of that white chalk paint, whatever it is.
Georgia Tech had a span of about 11 seconds last week where they were able to score 11 points, or 8 points, I should say. The kickoff return that followed a safety. Thomas's kickoff return last week came off of a free kick. Robert Beal Jr. was the injured Bulldog. He's being helped off the field by the athletic training staff. Point after for Wesley Wells at a Lumpkin County High School. For the first time since 2012 in an ACC matchup against North Carolina, Georgia Tech has a 100-yard kickoff return for a score, just the 3rd in the Institute's history, 14-7. Usually work out for dear old Cotton, does it? Tom Harwood, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelik. We've got Peter Burns back in the studio. A great day for college football. Rivalry weekend. Jake Fromm 6 for 6 to start this game. 7 for 7. Jeremiah Holloman breaks free. Another missed tackle on the edge by Georgia Tech. It's a gain of 17.
Yeah, you're going to give that cushion on the outside. Regardless of what's called, Jake Fromm is going to throw it out there and trust his receiver. Jeremiah Holloman is a guy that had a ton of hype this spring. Big spring game. Little bit lost in the mix in fall camp, but he's slowly starting to find his role on this team.
Only 4 words to describe this rivalry: clean, old-fashioned hate. Georgia with the early advantage, but Georgia Tech with the spark and momentum. We head to the second quarter between the hedges, 14-7 Bulldogs. And this, Fromm is perfect. Holyfield averaging 13 yards a carry. Swift 9 carries and a touchdown.
Exactly how Jim Chaney drew up this ball game going. Establish the run, take the passing plays when Georgia Tech gives you a soft zone. Be efficient. The one thing I'm still waiting for, a shot play. It's coming. They're going to catch Georgia Tech playing up one of these times, and they will take a shot.
A little bit of room, a stutter step, then Holyfield lost his footing, picks up 4. Trey Swilling the stop for Georgia Tech. Looked like Georgia was going to run away with this thing until Lawante Thomas kickoff return for a score. Georgia came in as heavy favorites, 5th ranked team in the country, 10th ranked rushing offense, 15th ranked scoring defense. And they go with wingbacks. Look at this play. Jason Stanley up the sideline. And Stanley finally forced out of bounds by Tariq Carpenter. It goes for 26.
Stanley's only had 2 touches on the entire season. You're going to see they're going to jam everybody into the box. There's no wide receivers on this play. Get everybody in tight. Get them on the edge. Just his 3rd touch of the entire season for Stanley, and nearly broke it for a touchdown.
I didn't know Georgia had A-backs.
Yeah, they're taking a page out of Georgia Tech there with the formation for sure.
Holyfield on the handoff from Fromm. He was bottled up for a hot second. Then he finds 5. Desmond Branch finally brings him down.
I'll tell you guys, Brandon Adams done a really nice job on the interior of this Georgia Tech defensive line. He doesn't get a ton of snaps in the regular season action. You wonder just how many he can go today, but having a bigger, beefier defensive tackle or nose guard in there has to help that Georgia Tech rush defense.
Branch at 270, Adams 325. Fromm over the middle. Too high for Isaac Naughty. It's a new look Georgia Tech defense under Nate Woody, who over the last 5 years was the defensive coordinator at Appalachian State. In fact, if you do the math, he was the coordinator when Jake Fromm made his first appearance for Georgia. And against App, Fromm went 10 for 15 for 143 yards last year.
Yeah, they've taken the good with the bad on defense for Georgia Tech. Nate Woody brought in a more aggressive style, but with that, with taking more chances, installing a new defense, you're going to have mental mistakes. You're going to have breakdowns, especially on 3rd down. They've seen that. Their presser packages have not been good. That's why they're one of the worst on 3rd.
Trips to the left side for Fromm, looking that way the whole way. To the end zone. It is caught. Touchdown, Jeremiah Holloman. 12-yard strike, and what a grab for the sophomore.
Just another unbelievably impressive display of touch by Jake Fromm. If you're just looking at it, that's covered. There's no window to throw the football. There's a defender in front, one trailing. But the trust that Jake Fromm has in his big target, Jeremiah Holloman, throws that up and over. Boy, it's impressive.
And so Georgia's able to answer the kickoff return score with another scoring drive. This one, 6 plays, 63 yards. Jake Fromm has 2 touchdown passes today, 22 on the season. And it seems there's no stopping this Georgia offense. Except the last one when they took a knee last week. So that is quite a run. Jake Camarda, their punter, hasn't had to work the last game and a half. Monte Thomas took the last one back 100 yards. Wanye, excuse me, and here he is from a yard deep, and he won't have a chance on that one.
Touchback. There's a flag back in the 35.
Flag on the play. The offsides on Georgia.
Offside. Kicking team, number 17. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Good form.
Thanks. I learned from my dad.
Nice.
How am I gonna wrap this?
Uga must like what he sees. Georgia Tech on offense running just its 7th play of the game here in the second quarter. And Taquan Marshall is able to keep it for 4. We talk a lot about the option look and the assignments, but how does misdirection affect the defense?
Well, it's that eye discipline we were talking about. Backside linebackers, backside safeties have to be extremely patient and extremely disciplined to stay home, because that misdirection, if someone leaves, oftentimes in the triple option, there's another A-back or the backside wing, the flow eventually comes back to you. So everyone's got to play with their head, not their heart, out there tonight. You start trying to make plays outside of your responsibility, that's when Georgia Tech will hit you big.
Pitch to Searcy. And he had an alley good enough for a first down. Tay Crowder finally brings him down. It's a pickup of 10. It was fun talking to both Kirby Smart and Mel Tucker about how Paul Johnson runs his offense. And Kirby was point blank. He said that guy is a step ahead of everybody. We're over here playing checkers, and he's playing chess. Pointing out that the way Paul Johnson sends in his plays via an A-back every single play, so there's no miscommunication, there's no room for discussion, that if he sees a missed assignment, oftentimes he'll see it before the defense will and take advantage of it on the very next play. Marshall keeps it, gets cut down. Crowder is there for the stop. It's a gain of 2.
I thought it was interesting talking to Mel Tucker. He mentioned, look, you can't scheme to stop certain plays. You have to scheme to dictate. If you start trying to play catch up and stop what they're doing, they'll be a step ahead. They've seen every defense possible. You've crammed for it for a week. There's nothing that you can do that they don't have an option, for lack of a better term, to do off of it. So you have to try to create overloads, have to try to dictate which side of the ball they run to. But knowing that you just have to play responsible, sound football like that right there.
That's Jonathan Ledbetter. Swallowed up to Taquan Marshall. It's a loss of 2. It's going to leave 3rd and long for Tech.
This is what you have to do at the point of attack. Ledbetter there taking on a block and then making a play. You have to stay on your feet, take on blocks, and when you have the opportunity, you have to tackle. Great job there by Ledbetter doing both.
Took down his dear friend, Taquan Marshall. 3rd down, 10. It won't surprise you to know that Tech is not a great passing offense, 126th in the nation. Timeout, Yellow Jackets. Sounds like a rivalry game. history of this great rivalry. And now an opportunity for Georgia Tech. 3rd and 10. It will only get louder. Marshall kept it, nowhere to go. A gain of only 3. Taquan Marshall had to go to each and every offensive lineman and get in their ear to change the play.
Yeah, it's something that you can't coach. You just got to react in the situation. But a great job here by DeAndre Walker, number 15 there, of playing sound football, setting an edge, forcing everything inside. Taquan Marshall wanted to get on the edge there, but he couldn't. Had to stuff it up inside. And now on a 4th and 7, I think they got to throw the football.
They'll throw for the 2nd time. No, they won't. Marshall checked down and dropped. And Georgia turns him over on downs. Jordan Davis with the sack.
Number 99, Jordan Davis. For the tackle for the Dogs. Georgia takes possession on down.
Marshall had nowhere to go downfield. He had nowhere to go in the backfield. Georgia gets the ball back, up 2 touchdowns.
University of Georgia Athletics Association and Georgia Power.
Want Taquan Marshall to set up right there, but you're going to see Malik Herring really blows this play up from the start. He's going to provide pressure here, and then late, J.R. Reed coming here is going to force the cutback by Marshall on a play where he'd like to set up and try to hit a pass play downfield. Pressure from both levels blew that one up.
Cloud taking a shot, end zone, caught, touchdown, Miko Hardman. Georgia got the momentum with the sack. They cash in with a 44-yard strike to Hardman. 3rd passing touchdown for Fromm today.
I knew the shot play was coming. You just knew by the way they've been running the football that eventually they were going to stretch the ball vertically, and no one does that better than Miko Hardman. Great route, great play call, even better throw.
Tech's defense watched the replay on the big board. They look shell-shocked after that one. Blankenship punches it through. Georgia leads 28-7. The only score for Georgia Tech came on a kickoff return.
There aren't many guys that can guard Miko Hardman in the slot or on a football field, period. But what you don't want is for Miko Hardman to be running downfield and to have your linebacker, number 51, Brant Mitchell, trying to run. This is a 2-shell, 2 Mike. That Mike linebacker trying to run with a slot receiver as fast as Miko Hardman, 50 yards down the field, is never going to work. Great identification by Jake Fromm at the line of scrimmage, understanding where the mismatch was, understanding his personnel, and then delivering a dime.
On possessions where Georgia has tried, okay, take out the kneel down at the end of the UMass game, the Bulldogs have scored touchdowns on 13 consecutive possessions. That is incredible.
It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You think the punter likes that or doesn't like that? I mean, he loves winning, but he's like, man, maybe once every 15.
Scholarship check still
right?
clears?
Yeah.
Good.
Still get my meal money? Okay. Every once in a while, though, guys, let me get out there and warm up my leg.
Yeah. Can we at least pretend? 28-7. Anye Thomas has a 100-yard kickoff return to his name already today. And he'll watch it clear his head here. Let's get you to the studio. Here's Peter.
Thank you, Thomas Hart. Florida State has won 5 straight against the Gators. So what do? You give the ball to LaMichael Pirine. Hits the hole, and off he goes, 74 yards. Faster than Cole Kublik trying for Thanksgiving leftovers. 10-0 Gators over the Seminoles.
Too much tryptophan for FSU.
I don't know. If we get a split screen there, I think Cole could go for those seconds pretty quick.
Yes, he could.
I know P. Ryan's fast, but
here's the thing. When you go in for leftovers, you don't have to be fast if you have power. You just brute strength and pull people out of your way.
Robert Beal Jr. has been injured on kickoffs twice today for Georgia. We weren't even sure he was going to return after the last one. But he was back out there. They will help him off the field. A wet, gloomy start to the day. Did you realize at kickoff it was colder here in Athens than it was in Columbus for the Ohio State-Michigan game?
Cold is cold to me. Anything below 50, and I'm not happy.
We'll get a powerful targeting on the play. Previous play is under review.
Instant replay thought that they saw targeting, so more time for Georgia Tech to come up with a plan. Let's see if Beal was maybe the victim of it.
Yeah, he got up a little wobbly. So without seeing a replay, you'd think that could be a possibility. They're going to be looking at on the right side of your screen. You're going to see 33 running down. There's the initial contact with 25. Right side of your screen right there.
Ear hole.
Yeah. Crown of the helmet definitely dips.
Trey Jackson, the Georgia Tech linebacker out of Valdosta.
I think the injury, the immediate injury there, definitely magnifies the impact of that hit. And if you're a guy watching film, you see that kind of hit nearly on every change of possession, on every special teams play, punt or kickoff. But this is what's good about this rule, that it's not just on the egregious ones. It's not just the defenseless receivers or the quarterbacks. They're going to go back and make sure that every player on every play is aware.
There is no foul for targeting. First down.
Jackson excited about it.
And this is where it's interesting. You know, it's somewhat subjective as to where that hit is coming from, right? Is it head on? Is it defenseless? As in, is it coming from the side? That one was about as head on as you're going to get.
The blindside hit automatically makes the receiver of the hit defenseless.
Because definitely lowered the crown of his helmet.
Yeah.
But it not being from the side, that defender or the guy on kickoff having a chance to see that, react, I think that's why that wasn't called.
Doesn't make Robert Beal any less woozy. Pitch to Searcy. That's been a successful play for Georgia Tech when they've gotten to the edge, but there's a flag back at the 32-yard line. J.R. Reed escorted him out of bounds after a gain of 15.
Personal foul, legal block below the waist, offense, number 15. The penalty is 15 yards, and final foul, repeat first down.
That's Jerry Howard. The B-back coming to the edge, and here he is to the next level.
Yeah, it's one of the new rules this year. You can't get outside there, coming back towards. You see how he changed directions there and then went low? It's another one of those hits like the targeting that we just saw review that they're trying to get out of the game.
It leaves Georgia Tech with a 1st and 18. Clinton Lynch to the 20, a gain of 3. Tobias Oliver's at quarterback now for Georgia Tech.
He had a couple of really big games. Rushed for 215 yards against Virginia Tech, 120 yards versus North Carolina, 5 TDs between those two games. Hasn't played a ton the last 2 games that Georgia Tech has had, but he's the more athletic, a little tougher to tackle, more the running quarterback, even though Marshall doesn't throw it a ton either. Both these guys rushed for over 800 yards this year.
Had a high school rivalry with Fromm. Oliver taken down behind the line of scrimmage. DeAndre Walker. And Georgia living in the Georgia Tech backfield here in the first half.
Georgia Tech in a situation down 28-7. Well, they got to start throwing the football, but thing is, that's not what they are best at. And Georgia, something they haven't done all year, really provide pressure on the quarterback. They are getting into the backfield consistently. Now here on 3rd down, going to have to do it again in a passing situation.
And a whistle before they can get the play off. A timeout taken by Georgia. Kirby Smart almost lost his visor. He's so furious right now.
First time out of the half.
When we return, Georgia Tech will be facing a 3rd and 16.
30-second timeout.
This drive, this game is about to get out of control.
Nicole Hartman leads the SEC in punt return average. Good blocking at the outset. And he takes that one down Tanny Creek for a 41-yard return after a 25-yard punt. (28-7). Georgia with the lead. This Georgia Tech defense has been fantastic all season at takeaways, but how can you get one against Georgia when all they're doing is running the ball and having success doing that?
Yeah, Georgia is playing the offensive game that they want to play. They're running the football effectively, and you're not going to get a takeaway from Jake Fromm if you don't have pressure on him. The play action has been fantastic. They haven't touched him, and he's been perfect.
James Cook grinds for a couple yards here. Rare to see Cook in the first half. And just his 5th carry out of 246 this season that has occurred in the first half.
Well, a guy they like. He's actually probably their most explosive back. I know Swift is the home run hitter, and he can do that, and he is as good as it gets with those big runs, but they love James Cook, so I like to see him early here getting some reps, significant game time.
On 2nd and 8, Cook squeezes through for a Georgia first down. Brant Mitchell finally brings him down after a gain of 10.
You can see already just how slippery he is. See the cuts weaving in and out. Something you don't see a ton of out of a true freshman running back, the kind of vision it takes to run between the tackles for what Georgia likes to do.
One of the Georgia offensive linemen is being tended to.
Sullivan Kinley.
Yep.
He's had a really good game so far. Been dominating up front. He's been physical. I highlighted one of his blocks earlier in the game when he sprung Holyfield for a big gain. He's sitting up now. But as this game gets more and more into Georgia's control, you start to look forward to next week. That matchup against Alabama, you want to be healthy, especially on the offensive line, because they are very, very thin with true freshman Cade Mays. The guard is out. Ben Cleveland is more of an emergency only today. The other guard, they don't have a lot of room for injuries up front.
Jamari Sawyer, freshman out of Pace Academy in Atlanta, will enter along the offensive line.
So that's really good to see. Walking off on his own power, little jog.
In Columbus, Ohio State has opened up a 14-6 lead on Michigan. And the question will remain, who could be in the college football playoff? There would be a host of one-loss teams pleading their case if the favorites went out. DeAndre Swift stays in the game at tailback. I think if you're a Georgia fan, you're hoping for Ohio State to win that game today.
Absolutely. Get Michigan out of the way. That clears things up for Georgia.
Here's DeAndre Swift, bounces to the outside, turns it upfield with a stiff arm, and he's got a Georgia first down. Remember, Michigan's lone loss came early in the season to Notre Dame. Should Notre Dame stay undefeated, they would stay in the playoff. Ohio State's loss came in a blowout to Purdue.
First down, Georgia.
Swift is averaging 5 yards a carry today.
First and 10 Dawgs at the 11.
Looks like Solomon Kinley back in there already at left guard.
3 touchdown passes for Jake Fromm as you go to the air again. It's Swift. Cuts it back and picks up 3.
Jordan, you mentioned Solomon Kinley back in at left guard, has had a good year, but this offensive line extremely beat up. I talked to Sam Pittman. We talked to Jim Chaney, the offensive coordinator, yesterday about what would happen if they lost a tackle in this game. And both guys, when we asked them, didn't really have an answer. Said, listen, we'd have to really think about it. We think we know what we're going to do, but from a depth perspective, we are nowhere near where we want to be or where we were going into the season.
It's not good when Alabama's up next, is it?
No. I think they got a guy, number 92, Quentin Williams, is pretty good. Might want to have a healthy offensive line.
Elijah Holyfield, outside run, dives. He is in. Touchdown, Georgia.
Who'd they run behind? Solomon Kinley getting an initial block here on 23 that gives a little bit of space for a Holyfield. And then that's all Holyfield at the end. Diving from the 3-yard line, getting that in. But I don't know if you can say anything bad about Georgia's offense today. I mean, what do you say? We're talking about injuries, but Solomon's back out there. I mean, they've been perfect.
To be quite frank, they are treating Georgia Tech like they're UMass.
Yeah.
And this looks no different than it did last week. Georgia has 5 touchdowns from 5 different players. They have been unstoppable for the last week and a half. UMass, Georgia Tech, doesn't seem to matter.
Let those numbers speak for themselves. 300 yards.
300 yards, and they've only had to go for it 3 times on 3rd down.
And 43 from Georgia Tech. I mean, Georgia Tech has not been slowed down by anybody but themselves this year. The games where they haven't been productive on offense is because of turnovers, penalties, or mental mistakes.
That's changed today. Blankenship bangs another one through the back of the end zone. 5 minutes to go in the half. Coming up later today on the SEC Network, 4 o'clock Eastern. Tennessee and Vandy. That's a winner-take-all matchup. Winner heads to the bowl. Loser starts their offseason. Then SEC Saturday night, presented by Holiday Inn Express. Ed Orgeron and LSU still lurking when it comes to the college football playoff rankings. They're aiming at the very least for a New Year's Six bowl. They get Jimbo and A&M at 7:30. Both games also streaming live on the ESPN app. Taquan Marshall at quarterback. Keeps it on the edge for a Georgia Tech first down.
There's a really good drive starter. Haven't seen that much space for Taquan Marshall yet today. He has had nowhere to run the football. Georgia overplayed the dive there, and that's when the quarterback option will hit you.
They rule him just short of the first down, and the knee was down before the ball came out at the end, it seems. So 2nd and inches. First down, a little bit more for Jerry Howard. Howard, sophomore from Rock Hill, South Carolina. Averaged 4 yards a carry last week against Virginia. He's a fighter. He's been through so much in his young life. His dad was murdered his junior year of high school. Around National Signing Day, his sister was killed in a car accident. Now he's got a son of his own. And he plays a physically demanding position for Georgia Tech. He gets it again, and he gets swarmed immediately by 5 different Bulldogs. It's a gain of 2. DeAndre Walker, first man there.
Walker's already had a really good game. We've seen him a couple times being patient, setting the edge and turning everything inside, and then plays like this where he sees it and shoots the gap to stop that dive. He's not the first guy that should get there. That dive play should be taken care of by the inside linebacker or the defensive line, but he's trusting his read key there, and he just made a big play.
And you wonder if Paul Johnson sees that and sees a counter to it.
Yeah.
They go right back to it. It's Jerry Howard again, this time for 3. Natrez Patrick, the senior out of Mays High School in Atlanta, with the stop in his 26th career start today. 3rd and 5.
3rd and 5, and still, to me, this is 2-down territory for Georgia Tech. You haven't stopped Georgia on offense all night, so what does it matter if they get the ball in plus territory or backed up? You got to get something going this drive and get points on the board.
Pitch to Nathan Cottrell, and he is stuck. It's DeAndre Walker, who knows this rivalry well. Against Georgia Tech as a freshman, he planted a flag at midfield.
He's watching himself up there. Does a great job of taking on the initial block here. That's his responsibility. And then shedding the block and making a tackle on the option. Not his responsibility, but making a play. And again, like I said, Georgia Tech going for it on 4th.
Option right, kept by Marshall, and he fights for the first down with a gain of 3.
Or just a missed tackle, and that's what Mel Tucker said frustrates him most about this defense. It's a physical battle as much as it is mental, and even when you are in the right spots, if you miss a tackle, that's all they need to pick up a few yards and chip away at you. Big first down by Georgia Tech.
Just the 4th of the game for the Yellow Jackets. Their lone score came on a kickoff return. Marshall keeps it himself, gets hog-tied by Jonathan Ledbetter. Pickup of 6. Georgia Tech uses a timeout with 1:08 to go in the 2nd quarter.
Timeout, Georgia Tech.
Just watch where Ledbetter comes from. This play is going to go all the way out tackle, and he's going to come from really
1 minute and 10 seconds.
the right guard, sheds out the block, comes all the way across to make that tackle. After just missing the tackle on the 4th down, that's a big play, covering a lot of ground there for a defensive lineman.
And Cole, what makes that even more impressive is the fact that you're fighting off those offensive linemen who are diving at you.
Not only diving at you, they're essentially bear crawling. I mean, you're taking helmets right around the belt, right in the hips, right on the quads. So to be able to utilize your hands, get off those blocks, stay off the ground, then come flat down the line of scrimmage and make those plays is what's extremely impressive. You see multiple Georgia defenders be able to do it. That front has been phenomenal for the Bulldogs today.
Coming up at the half, you can watch a live performance of the Georgia Redcoat Marching Band on SEC Network Plus. Start streaming now on the ESPN app. How about the lone trumpeter today? That might have been the best one I've heard here. Yeah.
Crushing it. I used to want to play trumpet.
Yeah, until when?
Until I found out recorder was a lot easier.
I thought it was going to be until you found out you had to wear a band hat.
That too. Can't cover up this hair. Come on, Tom. You know that.
You look good in a lot of things. Band hat, no. You've got your own plumage. 2nd and 5. It's Searcy in motion. And they're going to throw. Marshall, Chase, Taylor pressured him. And it flutters incomplete to leave 3rd and 5.
It's interesting when you watch this offense against this Georgia defense last year, almost every pass play for the first 3 quarters, they added motion to it. And then when they got in a position late in the game where they had to throw, Georgia Tech speaking of, you wouldn't see any motion with the pass plays. But a lot of times you're going to see a motion that will lead you into some sort of a rollout.
not very often that Paul Johnson's offense is predictable. Third down 5. Option. Pitch to Cottrell. Bundled up and brought down. No gain. DeAndre Baker coming up from his cornerback spot for the stop.
It's just a great job. You're going to see the dive. You're going to see the option here. 31's going to come from this side. And there is a Georgia defender for every option. One on the quarterback, one on the pitchman or the blocker, and then someone setting the edge, waiting for the pitchman on the outside. A very well-defended option play, again, by Georgia.
Please put 55 seconds on the game clock. 55 seconds.
So 35-7 lead, under a minute to go. Key fourth down. It seems like every series has been key for Georgia Tech because they've been unable to advance the ball.
Yeah, and I'm just so impressed with how Georgia has played this triple option. It's something you kind of cram for. You have a few days as a coaching staff to get a lot of information to your players on how to defend it. They've been nearly perfect.
They have been perfect on offense. I mean,
Yes.
they've scored on every possession. They scored on every meaningful possession against UMass. They are peaking offensively at the right time with Alabama lurking.
Absolutely. Because I don't care what you think about next week. Georgia's going to have to score points.
Yeah,
they got to do some things on defense to slow down Tua, but you're not going to stop it. And this is as good as I've seen this Georgia offense really the last 2 weeks.
Jake Fromm has been magnificent. He is 9 of 10. For 144 yards. Georgia used a timeout there before the 4th and 6. And remember, they already hit on one long one, so get the ball back, take another shot.
And again, Tom, I say this as good as we've seen Georgia's offense. You might say, yeah, well, they played UMass, and they're playing Georgia Tech, but it's not that. Look at the way Jake Fromm has been accurate, throwing over defenders. Those are difficult throws he's executing. He'll be able to do that against Alabama as well.
Georgia Tech to throw on 4th and 6. Marshall pressured, escapes once, can't escape twice. It's another sack for the Bulldogs defense. Malik Herring was in there. It's a loss of 7, and Georgia will get the ball back in prime field position with 43 seconds left.
And there is just nowhere for Marshall to go. He's going to have pressure from both edges, and then you're going to see the gap get shot. He's going to try to step up. Eyes downfield, pressure on both edges, but there's nowhere to go. As a quarterback, you're okay with pressure off the edge if you can step up into a pocket or step up and run through, but you couldn't there. Juwan Taylor coming straight up the A-gap, blowing it up.
Third consecutive drive to start in Tech territory for Georgia. Jake Fromm's going to tighten up the formation.
48.
They'll add 5 seconds to the game clock. What do you do from a play selection standpoint if you're Georgia? You have one timeout remaining.
You got one timeout. This first play is always kind of a feeler. I wouldn't be surprised if they get the ball in the perimeter. Soft zone coverage right here by Georgia Tech. Let your playmaker try to get you a chunky yards.
Fromm against that zone, incomplete, little bit wide, trying to find Riley Ridley. Georgia drive chart. All 5 drives today have ended in a touchdown.
Well, remember Jim Chaney, when we were talking to him yesterday, said, hey, this game's simple, right? Control the ball, hold the ball, score points. Well, they did it. So far, perfect in the first half.
It's like cooking the perfect turkey on Thursday.
Not always easy, though.
No, it's not. DeAndre Swift. Georgia first down, taken down inbounds. Clock will stop for a moment on a gain of 13. Tariq Carpenter the stop.
Now you see Georgia pushing the tempo a little bit. Once you hit a chunk play, you can decide to push the pedal to the metal.
Clock rolling. Fromm looking, connects with Isaac Nauta. He is inbounds. The clock will run at 26 seconds, but he'll stop just for the chains to move.
Nauta is such a weapon in 2-minute situations because most defenses are playing off zone coverage. So he kind of gets lost in the mix. I think it was Florida we saw him have 3, 4 big catches on a 2-minute drive. And again, right back to him.
This time he steps out of bounds, stop the clock with 19. Remember, Rodrigo Blankenship has a long of 53 this season. big leg waiting in the wings for Georgia.
Even though that play right there is working, you can still use the middle of the field if you're Georgia here with 19 seconds left. You have a timeout. You lull them to sleep with some quick flat routes by the tight end. Be surprised if we see a slant coming back the other way or a shot into the end zone.
Could you run it with Swift?
Yeah, you absolutely could. But then that kind of dictates that you're gonna have to take that timeout.
Sure. Swift picks up the blitz. Duck to the edge again. Isaac Nottingham decides to stay in bounds at first, and he does so. Clock will stop for a moment with 9 seconds left. They'll move the chain and a timeout taken.
Timeout.
Timeout, Georgia. Third and final timeout of the half.
This is an incredible offensive performance by Kirby Smart's Bulldogs. Jim Chaney's offense has gobbled up yardage in every way imaginable today.
Every way. And really the only thing we hadn't seen yet today was using the tight end. And that's all they've been doing on this drive. So you got 9 seconds left. You still have time to take a shot into the end zone. So Jim Chaney right now has got to be thinking, who's my one-on-one guy I want to throw a back shoulder or a jump ball to? You like a back shoulder in this situation because with 9 seconds, you don't want that ball to get tipped up in the air or float too long and run too much time off. Find a one-on-one matchup, put it into the end zone. If you don't get it, got a near perfect guarantee for 3.
Jim Chaney is always a blast to talk football with, isn't he?
I always feel like he's got such a way of kind of making me feel like I complicate this game of football way too much. You know, we're analysts back here. We like to dissect it, analyze it. He just gets there. He goes, you know, you got to hold the ball and score points.
Georgia scored a touchdown in every possession thus far today. First and goal. Out of timeouts. Werner in motion.
Riley Ridley, one-on-one, bottom of your screen.
Lob, back corner end zone, incomplete, trying to find Ridley. Covered by Ajani Kerr. And Kerr chatting with Ridley. They're going to bring on Blankenship with 5 seconds left.
And I think a little miscommunication there between Ridley and Fromm. Fromm was thinking a little more over the top. I think Ridley was expecting a back shoulder in that situation.
Is that just reps or is that something that's decided?
It's just a feel thing. I mean that wasn't as clear cut. Ridley was kind of even with the defender, so as a quarterback you could think that could be either. I mean Ridley 6'2", so you like the jump ball, but I think Ridley was probably thinking back shoulder, as good as Fromm's been throwing that all year.
Rodrigo Blankenship has made 18 of 20 field goal attempts this season. He remains one of the best kickers in the country. And Georgia scores on every single possession in the first half to take a 38-7 lead on Georgia Tech. Georgia has scored on every possession over the last 2 games, with the exception of an end-of-game kneel down against UMass. A long way to go for Paul Johnson and Georgia Tech. He's won 2 in a row here, but Taquan Marshall and his offense have a hard time finding room to roam. Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, Cole Kublik's down on the field. I mean, what can you say if you're Georgia Tech? This is a first half you'd like to forget. And what can you say if you're a Georgia fan? This is a first half of perfection.
Yeah, you can be really happy about it if you're a Georgia fan, and then you can start to think, okay, we got Alabama coming up in a week. Let's start to figure out who we want to get out of the game, who we want to leave in the game. To me, I think we're going to see some Justin Fields in the second half.
They haven't had to show any new wrinkles today that they may be using against Alabama because there's been no need.
Yeah, and Georgia Tech plays a very vanilla zone defense, so they've been able to take the free access, the soft coverage on the outside when it was there, and flat out they've just ran the football between the tackles very effectively, utilizing their size. So perfect game plan, perfect execution by Georgia. Didn't show a ton, and now I think in the second half, start strong and then start to rest and get some of your starters out of there.
You just made me look at the roster to find who this strong guy is. Walk-on freshman, he might play. Largest margin victory in this series was 48. That was Georgia Tech in 1943. 0-2, Georgia won 51-7 This one less competitive than that. Let's go down the field. We check in with Cole.
Tom spoke to Coach Johnson coming out of the halftime, asked him, what do you do if you're this Georgia Tech offense? How do you adjust? Do you stick with what got you here, stick with the triple option? He kind of laughed and said, if we don't get the football, it doesn't really matter. He said, we've got to get stops defensively, have to try and get the football back, and then maybe we make some adjustments offensively, try to do a few things different.
But they're not going to change who they are offensively. No. They might try to take more risks for big gain plays, but that doesn't necessarily mean passing plays. They hand it off on first down and find 2 yards. Jordan Mason, the freshman from Gallatin, Tennessee, with the carry. 66 yards on the ground for the nation's leading rushing offense, 354 yards a game. And that's almost 50 yards more than the second most prolific rushing offense. Far and away the best rushing team in the country this year.
Yeah, they found a little bit of success towards the end of the half there, getting the ball off tackle, getting Marshall on the edge with an A-back as an option. But you got to start where your offense is centered around, which is that dive, which we saw in the first play, and I wouldn't be surprised. Oh.
You can't afford to do that.
I was going to say, wouldn't be surprised if they start to get it off tackle, which they tried to do there, but can't do that without the ball.
It's a Georgia Tech team that makes its living taking the ball away and possessing it on the other side. They have yet to get a takeaway on defense, and they almost coughed one up. 3rd down 9. Marshall to throw, flushed again, changes direction again, and he'll Reggie ball that one over to the hedges.
Get nowhere, no pocket for Marshall. Getting a little gun shy back there. He started to look at that rush a little sooner than he'd like a quarterback to, but you can't blame him. He's had nowhere to stand to look downfield all day, and again, great pressure from the interior for Georgia. Something I wanted to see from them. They're going to need to see that next week.
Need Cole Hardman to receive. Not a good punt. It hangs up, and Hardman rushes up to take it after a 29-yard punt. You're in the Classic City. A chilly Saturday afternoon, but Bulldog fans feeling good about the way this one's going. You take over Wrigley Field, you go to the Rose Bowl, you take over Pasadena, you win that thriller, you go to the national championship game. And the expectations now are wildly different with this program. I mean, they expect to get back there this year.
Yeah, how different is this program than 2 years ago when they lost to Georgia Tech on this field? Just think about that team and how different not just the personnel was in 2016, but the expectations in 2016 versus now. Night and day. They expect to compete for national championships. They expect to be in the college football playoff. Alabama's standing in the way, but this is a program that has had a meteoric rise to the top.
And if you're Kirby Smart, that's a pretty good blueprint to follow, right? There's nothing better than what Nick Saban has accomplished in his decade plus in Tuscaloosa. Elijah Holyfield dances and fights and grinds. He's got a Georgia first down, and a host of white shirts find him. Pickup of 6. Be interesting to see what the rankings look like going into championship weekend. Ohio State leads Michigan 24-19 at the half.
Here's a big one. Georgia fans, probably every one of them has that game, that score up on their phone right now.
Wow, what a burst of speed by DeAndre Swift. He was just oozing through the offensive line, and then he took off.
You know, Nate Woody, the defensive coordinator for Georgia Tech, as you mentioned earlier, faced this Georgia team last year.
Yep.
So I kind of just asked him, well, what's different? Obviously, no Nick Chubb, no Sony Michel. Those guys are playing on Sundays now. He goes, yeah, but there's not a drop-off. I mean, Swift and Holyfield are different, but as good as those two. And he said they're more versatile, they're more dangerous on the outside with the weapons that Fromm has this year and how he's developed in throwing the football.
The versatile Swift, another chance, a hesitation behind the line. Then he gets to the edge, stays in bounds, and down the line. He is out of bounds at the 2-yard line. It'll be 1st and goal, Georgia, after a 28-yard run.
That foot
inside the 1.
I think they shorted him about a yard on that. Got it spotted at the 2 right now. That's, I mean, just how the burst, the speed that he has. I mean, that play was all jumbled up at the line of scrimmage. He bounces it. One cut later.
Here's Brian Harrion. He's stopped. Georgia Tech comes up and sticks him. Brant Mitchell, senior out of Knoxville's Webb School, had 8 tackles against Georgia last year.
Just shoots the A-gap here. Really good job by their linebacker that we saw got burned earlier in the game in a mismatch in coverage against Mecole Hardman. That's not his strong suit. Coverage is not. But he's a very north and south linebacker. Showed it there. Good play. This is the set. Georgia loves these tight splits.
Yeah.
Creates space on the outside. Wouldn't be surprised they throw a corner out here.
Fromm over the middle. It is caught. It's another touchdown pass for Jake Fromm. Second touchdown catch of the game for Riley Ridley. This is bordering on the ridiculous.
It's just the patience he has. He was looking for the corner route to the left side. Riley Ridley was actually on a stick route to the right side of Fromm, and then kind of plays a little backyard football. Sees Fromm holding the football, continues towards the middle there, opens up in the zone. It's just, I mean, Fromm's just been so perfect.
So a couple questions remain. How long will Fromm play? When will we see Fields? And what kind of number can the Dogs put up today? They have scored on every single possession this afternoon against their rivals from Atlanta. Nationally, he's not as appreciated as he should be based on the number of wins and the success, and probably not as appreciated within Atlanta as much as he should be. He has taken a unique offense, a non-traditional offense in this day and age. He's recruited 2- and 3-star guys to get into the Institute, and he's won a ton of games.
I think that's what's most impressive, just the roster that he does it with, let alone the budgetary restrictions at a school like Georgia Tech compared to the big dogs that he has to go against week to week, and especially in games like this against an SEC school. But it's the uniqueness to that offense that provides even the best defensive coordinators in the country, like Kirby Smart fits. And you could tell yesterday talking to him, he didn't enjoy this. He doesn't enjoy scheming against this offense because it's so unique. They're so good at it. It's a small margin of error when you face this type of team. Today, Georgia's just been better, flat out, at every position.
Jeff Schultz writes for The Athletic in the week of the Miami game. He talked to Paul Johnson about his future, and the quote was, "I've said all along, I'm be ready to step down when it's not fun." He said, "I don't think it's ever easy to decide." Georgia Tech will be heading to a bowl game this year. The Military Bowl in Annapolis, where Paul coached for so long, is one of the options. That might be
of error when you face this type of team. Today, Georgia's just been better, flat out, at every position.
Jeff Schultz writes for The Athletic in the week of the Miami game. He talked to Paul Johnson about his future, and the quote was, "I've said all along, I'm be ready to step down when it's not fun." He said, "I don't think it's ever easy to decide." Georgia Tech will be heading to a bowl game this year. The Military Bowl in Annapolis, where Paul coached for so long, is one of the options. That might be
of error when you face this type of team. Today, Georgia's just been better, flat out, at every position.
Jeff Schultz writes for The Athletic in the week of the Miami game. He talked to Paul Johnson about his future, and the quote was, "I've said all along, I'm be ready to step down when it's not fun." He said, "I don't think it's ever easy to decide." Georgia Tech will be heading to a bowl game this year. The Military Bowl in Annapolis, where Paul coached for so long, is one of the options. That might be.
What a great job on the outside. Tyreek McGee gets his legs taken out from under him, gets back up, gets an arm on the ball carrier to slow that down. Otherwise, probably would have picked up the first down. Now backed up. They got to go for it here on 4th down big.
Paul Johnson wants a timeout. Play clock was at 7 when he took it.
First time out of the half.
This Georgia Tech offense facing a hard-hitting. Georgia's defense has been suffocating today. Marshall, quarterback sneak. He's able to get the first down.
Really like the call there. I mean, there's a lot you got to take into consideration against a triple option, especially in short yardage. 3 or 4 ways they can beat you. That's one you don't think of right away. It's the quarterback keeper. Probably somewhere if they see the gap there, they can run it. If not, they can go their normal dive option. Great read there by Marshall, taking it himself.
Marshall 0 for 3 through the air. Wow. Malik Herring has had a monster day for Georgia. He blew that one up for a loss of 1.
Been all over the place. Been in the backfield, blowing up the dive there. Exceptional game by this defensive front hit Herring here. See, he's going to go the dive first, get hands on the guard, reads the quarterback, and makes a tackle. An exceptional, fundamental performance across the board by Georgia on defense.
Nice ball fake by Taquan Marshall. Picks up 9. Jordan Davis in on the stop for Georgia. Alabama and Auburn at 3:30 this afternoon. Clemson and South Carolina tonight. Notre Dame is at USC. The Trojans could throw a wrinkle in everything with a home win against the Irish. And Michigan trailing Notre Dame by 5. Oklahoma gets Texas in the Big 12 title game next week. So the Sooners with 1 loss still a threat.
There's a lot of quality teams that, when this all shakes out, are going to deserve serious consideration to that top 4. One of those years it feels like there's not enough spots in the playoff.
College football rankings are brought to you by Capital One. So another 4th down. Paul Johnson sends a call in with Nathan Cottrell. Georgia Tech 2 of 4 on 4th down today. Another quarterback sneak and another first down for Marshall.
Marshall sneaks. First down.
Last year, Taquan Marshall had one of the most prolific seasons by quarterback in Georgia Tech history. For Paul Johnson, he had 6 100-yard games, 17 touchdowns, school record for rushing yards by quarterback.
That big gap. Second time they've converted on 4th. Again, probably just something they can read. They got double-A gaps open like that. Just take the quarterback sneak. But you're right about Marshall. He's had a heck of a career here as a runner. Not as much of a throwing quarterback as Georgia Tech has had in the past. They don't quite have the weapons that they've had in the past as well. Demarius Thomas, Calvin Johnson are the headliners for Georgia Tech receivers. But
in their history, Georgia Tech has had more 1,000-yard receivers than Georgia has.
Isn't that crazy?
Georgia's only had 1.
For a school that doesn't throw it that much, I think Demarius was way out of the ordinary with 50 catches or so. Georgia Tech, you usually only get 10 or 15 if you're a receiver here.
Clinton Lynch
on the year.
The leading receiver this season. Brad Stewart has 13 catches. Had a big one against Virginia last week. Pretty good ones, including Calvin Johnson, who was at the game last week.
And Demaryius Thomas not on that list.
No. NCAA wiped out the last 3 games of his 1,000-yard season, so officially not a 1,000-yard receiver, but on the field he caught 1,000 yards worth of passes.
Barry Bonds is still a good home run hitter regardless of the asterisk, so I'm going to count Demaryius there if I'm tallying it up.
Extra effort by Marshall, and we'll see where the mark is. Tyler Clark got to him.
They're going to have another 4th down here.
They've gotten it by nose. Let's see. Yep.
They did. Okay.
This is where I remind everyone that the yellow line is unofficial.
Yes.
We're starting to see a couple pretty good surges in the middle of that Georgia Tech offensive line. Left guard Parker Braun's a guy that when you put the film on really does look like a Power 5 offensive lineman that can play at any school. I've been impressed with what he's done, and now you're seeing he and the center really begin to get a little bit of movement on those double teams in the middle of that Georgia Tech offensive line.
Paul Johnson called Parker Braun the best player on the team.
Period. He's so powerful for only being listed at 280, which, Cole, you and I know that means he's probably in the low 270s or so as an offensive lineman, but he's so quick, he's so powerful. He's the guy they want to run behind if they do have an option to do so.
He really struggled in this game a year ago. They tried to get him out on the perimeter, a lot of big sweeps and a lot of power plays, a couple counters, pulled him out in space, wasn't as effective. He's effective close to the line of scrimmage, and that's where I think he takes advantage of some of that power that he has.
His dad played football at Army, high school offensive line coach, mama high school athletic director. Straight ahead for Jerry Howard. It's the first time Georgia Tech has gotten inside the Bulldogs 40-yard line today. A 13-play drive for Tech's deepest penetration of the afternoon. Georgia shows blitz. Option left and nowhere to go. The speed of the Georgia Tech defensive front and linebackers has absolutely mauled Georgia Tech.
Adam Anderson out here, number 56, is going to show great patience on this play. Again, his read key goes wide, so he keeps his eyes on his next key, which is the quarterback. Slow plays it. You overcommit against the option too early. That's when they can out-leverage you and get on the outside. Another great job by Georgia staying fundamentally sound, and another 4th down here for Georgia Tech.
Marshall to throw to the slant. Incomplete. He was trying to fit it into Jalen Camp. And all Camp got out of it was a face full of sod.
I'll tell you what, for a second there, it looked like a good play. A straight drop back, slant on the outside. Not something you see out of Georgia Tech. Great accurate throw by Marshall, putting it right in the belly. It's where you want it on a slant. You want it away from the defender as it is, but Camp's got to come down with that.
Knocked out by Eric Stokes. A 15-play drive that lasts 9 minutes and 2 seconds. That nets nothing.
As I suspected, one drive in the bag for Jake Fromm in the second half, and here comes Justin Fields.
5 of 8 last week against UMass through the air. He was a 100-yard rusher, first for a quarterback at Georgia since Quincy Carter in 1998. Brian Harrion gets an opportunity. Okay, so this is different than maybe folks thought, in that Justin Fields is not being used as a weapon here. You don't need him to kickstart the offense. You're just getting him some reps. So what's the goal for Justin Fields today?
Well, I think it's the same goal that it's been all year. Continue to get him game reps as you develop him within this offense. Talking to Jim Chaney yesterday about Fields, he said there's nothing he can't do. His decisions maybe aren't quite as quick as Jake Fromm's, and understandably so. Fromm's been in the offense for a year longer than Fields, but shown a lot of promise in what he's been able to do as far as handling the entire offense. The only holdback as of now, some of the shifts in motions on early down packages that Jake Fromm is so good at. It's not the actual shifts in motions, it's how the defense reacts to those. To me, the more comfortable you get Justin Fields, the more you can feel good about inserting him next week into a hostile environment when you do need him. Because I've been a big advocate from the fact that they will need Justin Fields against Alabama. Not because Fromm can't do it, but when you're as good as Alabama is up front, you've got to have a mobile quarterback at some point.
Jake Fromm has thrown 4 touchdown passes today. Georgia Tech has attempted only 5. We're through with 3 quarters. And Georgia in firm control. They've now gone to the dynamic Justin Fields at quarterback. We'll see what he can do next. To the 4th quarter we go. Clean, old-fashioned hate. Been a one-sided affair today. Georgia Tech has 1 touchdown. It came via special teams. Freshman Justin Fields, the quarterback, stands tall in the pocket, rifles one downfield, trying to get it to Mecole Hardman. Tariq Carpenter with the coverage.
That's really what he showed last week, and not that we didn't know it, because if you've been at practice and we've done a Georgia game, so we've gotten to see Justin Fields up close. He's got a cannon. He's not a package quarterback. He's not a running quarterback. He's a quarterback. And I think last week, even with just that one throw, the 50-yard bomb downfield, that showed Alabama, hey, we might have to play him balanced. Can't just guarantee he's going to run the football.
Might need a roster to recognize Jake Camarda. He's finally used in a game. First time since the Auburn game. That was we got a flag and a whistle, but that was an awesome punt.
Wow.
That was a rocket.
That was a
Full start on the offense. Not all 11 players were set for a full second. 5-yard penalty. 4th down.
Well, his legs fresh, that's for sure.
thing was a tighter spiral than I think we've seen today.
He's like, see, if you guys would just give me a chance.
Maybe he told him to do that. He's like, guys, I need at least 2 here, so don't quite get set.
Wanye Thomas back to receive for Georgia Tech. Remember, he's got the kickoff return score.
Wanye Thomas, 2%.
Camarda, freshman out of Norcross. Let's see if he gets into another one. Ooh, took it on a short hop. That looked pretty good in the scorebook, but not as pretty as the first one. 45-yard punt. Let's take a look at the 5-star play of the day, brought to you by Yellowwood.
Well, there was a lot of plays of the day for Georgia's defense against an offense that's unique. They face it 1 week every year. They prepare for it a little bit every week. But to show up today the way they have, Georgia will get you, because every now and then they'll expect you're going to miss 1 or 2 keys. You're going to be out of position once or twice. Georgia has not been out of position once. They've held the #1 rushing team in the nation to just 103 yards so far in this game.
Different formation for Georgia Tech now. And they keep it with Taquan Marshall. Let's keep it with Peter Burns.
All right, thanks, Thomas. Felipe Franks finds Josh Hammond 20-7, and Florida just recovered a fumble of the Seminoles. Route in order.
Chance for a double pass for Georgia Tech. They won't get it off. Specialty play blown up by Georgia's aggressive defense. It's a loss of 3. Cole's got a special guest. This is weird. Cole, what's up?
No, we're balling on the sidelines with Carmelo Anthony. What brings you to SEC country?
I'm just here, man. I was in Georgia for the holidays. Came down with my family. Always wanted to come to a Georgia game. This is a good game to come to, Georgia versus Georgia Tech. So I'm just glad I could make it. The timing was right.
Is this your first SEC game you've been to?
It's my first SEC game, yes. I always wanted to come to an SEC game. This is this is one of the reasons why I wanted to come.
Lived up to the hype so far?
Absolutely. I mean, despite the score, it is what it is, but I think the experience of just being here and experiencing the SEC game is always a good thing.
So we put Carmelo Anthony in pads. What position you're going to be playing?
I mean, tight end.
Oh!
Nice little tight end.
So you'd be a red zone threat?
Yeah, red zone threat. Just throw it up. Throw it up.
What teammate of yours do you think could have been the best football player that you ever played with?
Probably Russell Westbrook, running back for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carmelo Anthony, NCAA champion with Syracuse, now taking in some SEC football. Phil watching his son. You know, Vander played football at Fulton High School in Atlanta. He told folks he wanted to play linebacker here at Georgia. When he came back from the '84 Olympics, I think he made the right choice. As a 15-year-old, he was 5'4", 115 pounds. On third down, it is batted back. It is then knocked down by Taquan Marshall. Smart play. Adam Anderson was able to work his way into the backfield.
More impressive, Holyfield as a linebacker or Mello as a tight end?
Oh.
I mean,
well, nobody wants to get hit by Holyfield, no matter what.
No.
Can you imagine being at the bottom of some of those piles?
Oh. You know what?
Couple rib shots, you wouldn't be getting up.
Someone needs to tell Carmelo that tight ends still have to block. I think he meant to say wide receiver.
You
think he wants to mix it up in there?
He's a free agent right now. Maybe he's looking to hook up with an NFL team.
Timeout, Georgia. First time out of the half.
Georgia uses a timeout. All of these guys making fashion statements. We'll go deeper right after this.
Monday Night Football is in your future.
Give thanks for an AFC South feast as J.J. Watt and the Red Hot Texans go for their 8th straight win against the division rival Titans. So bring on Monday. Because Mondays are made for Monday Night Football. Titans-Texans, Monday at 8:15 on ESPN.
SEC Network Football is presented by Allstate, reminding you that football season is mayhem.
Yeah, and straight mayhem today if you're a Georgia Tech fan. The Bulldogs running all over the Yellow Jackets in prime for their matchup with Alabama in the SEC championship game. Tech will punt it away. Akil Crumpton stands at the 40. A one hopper, and that will trickle off of a Georgia Tech player. So it's actually cooler here in Athens than it is in Columbus, Ohio. 48 degrees here, 49 in Columbus, which means everyone's going to make some sartorial decisions. So let's ask you, between Carmelo Anthony and Cole Kublik, who wore it better?
Legal touching.
Yeah.
For the kicking team.
Two conflicting styles there.
Yeah.
Cole's got kind of the hipster, like little floppy look in the back, and Melo's a little less functional because your ears are probably kind of cold.
Is that a ski mask? Was that a folded up ski mask? I thought I saw eye holes at the top.
I don't know. I couldn't tell if that was like an emblem or. I don't think Cole's winning that one, though.
That's a shame, guys. Really, it is. Jordan Rogers is going against the hipster.
Why is there?
Who would have ever thought that would have taken place? That's embarrassing.
Valid argument, Cole. But yeah, got nothing for you there except for that beanie's a little saggy in the back.
No more red bicycle for me.
I'm going to miss you guys next week. James Cook with the carry. Now that's a classic look. By the way, can we get Dana Holgerson to wear a hat? I don't know if the visor's really working for him.
Yeah.
Now Kirby can rock a visor. He's got plenty of salad to protect up top.
At some point, someone in the TV booth or the coach upstairs has got to tell you, hey, coach, might want to cover that up.
That one works. Let's see what's working tonight. SEC Saturday night. Ed Ogeron and LSU take on Jimbo Fisher in Texas A&M. Which Kellen Mond will show up, I think, is a big question.
That's the biggest question, because Texas A&M really hasn't had a signature win yet. They've won the games they probably should have, and they've lost the games that could have been either way, or maybe would have signified that they've taken that next step under Jimbo. This is one that I think LSU's got to be on high alert, playing at Texas A&M. The right A&M team shows up, they could win that.
Fields pressured, steps away from it, will take off, and he lowers his shoulder at midfield. It's a gain of 7. Malik Rivera, he graduated from Wofford with a degree in mathematics, finance, and computer science. He played in the FCS playoffs the last 2 years, comes up to make the stop as a graduate transfer for Georgia Tech.
And Nate Woody, the defensive coordinator for Georgia Tech, said he's probably the best decision they ever made was going to get Malik Rivera to transfer in. Bright spot on that defense. You saw the elusiveness of Justin Fields. They're trying to push the ball downfield, and had a late developing twist by Georgia Tech. He was able to scamper out and get a few yards. Got to learn to slide when he has the opportunity.
On 4th and 1, let's see if he got it.
Not sliding on 4th and 1, though, that's for sure. I think that spot's going to give it to him. Oh, thought he was just gonna eyeball it. Say, yep, looks good.
10:55 to go. Kirby Smart was thankful he brought in his mom to help out with Thanksgiving dinner, didn't he?
Smart man.
Yeah, let's get the ringer. She's a turkey perfectionist.
See, just go with your gut.
Just roll with it. He's not really happy about playing an option team at all, let alone this point in the schedule. You guys asked him, well, would you think about, because of the prep that it takes, putting another option team on the schedule, maybe an FCS team, say a Citadel? No chance.
No. Doing it once is bad enough. You don't want to have to do that twice, not just from a preparation standpoint, but
in spring, every practice they send 10 minutes on the option. Preseason camp, they spend an entire day on the option, and then 2 days on Georgia Tech's offense during the off week. Ball came loose, and Georgia Tech's got its first takeaway. It's Brandon Adams who found it. He forced it, and he got it.
True freshman quarterback, true freshman running back. Sometimes that exchange gets a little sloppy.
Kind of looked like Cole's beanie. Not pretty. Ripped out by Brandon Adams and recovered.
The
The College Football Playoff Top 25 Rankings Show, Tuesday at 7 on ESPN.
Well, that'll be fascinating this week. And then again, this is what's on the line. The Governor's Cup, presented by the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And Governor Deal ready to present it. And it will go to Georgia once again unless something incredible happens in the last 10.5 minutes. Speaking of incredible, they just showed Ohio State with a blocked punt for a touchdown against Michigan on the big board. And that represents an opportunity for Georgia to get back in the college football playoff. They're going to throw to the edge again, a backwards pass and maybe a yard. The ball came loose. If you're Georgia Tech, this game has been about as pretty as an aardvark. I mean, this has been just a total beatdown. Their quarterbacks are 0 for 6 through the air. The best rushing team in the country has been held to 107 yards.
An anteater?
Yeah, they're not pretty. No, the
No,
aardvark's not really. I mean, they have that pig-like snout. They go behind the line. They want to throw back. This is Marshall on the receiving end. He's got blockers out front. Taquan Marshall to the 20-yard line. Third straight time they've run that play. They finally throw it back. James Graham, the freshman quarterback out of Fitzgerald, Georgia, on the receiving end and the throwing end.
Interesting wrinkle, because most of the time you'd be worried about those blockers in front of the receiver stocking and going, throwing over the top to that side. It kept waiting for that to be the wrinkle, and then a quarterback throwback. Might be the most productive play we've seen in a while.
It is indeed. 22 yards on the gain. And the first completion today for the Yellow Jackets. Jerry Howard is the B-back. He gets it straight ahead. Okay, so let's play this thing forward with the college football playoff. If Ohio State holds on against Michigan and they can finish the season with the Big Ten title, they'll be a one-loss team. Georgia right now is a one-loss team. If they can beat Alabama next week, you would think that would put them in prime position, but I don't know if anything's guaranteed in this day and age. Here's the toss. Lynch. And he's got a Georgia Tech first down. Speaking of Ohio State, here's Peter Burns.
Well, Tom Hart, you said they showed it on the Jumbotron, so we'll show you here. How about Chris Olave? Already 2 touchdown passes today. He blocks that punch. Buckeyes freshman, big-time player. They're up now 36-17. Chaos in college football.
That's why we love it. Got a one-loss Oklahoma team, a one-loss Ohio State team, a one-loss Georgia team. Jerry Howard straight ahead to go along with Notre Dame and Clemson.
I think Notre Dame and Clemson will take care of business, obviously, and definitely helps out Georgia a lot with Ohio State up 2 scores now. If they hold on, Georgia still, they got to beat Alabama. Yeah, they, in some degree, control their own destiny. If they beat Alabama, they will be in.
Here's Searcy trying to find the edge, and he reaches for the goal line. He's in. First offensive touchdown of the day for Georgia Tech. For Quay Searcy, it's a 3-yard plunge.
Lunges for the goal line at the end. That knee stays up. That's a good call by the ref standing there right in front. Thought about spotting it short here. You can see a little indecision by the ref as he takes 1 step back, but then confirmed. It's a good effort by Searcy on the outside. Georgia's got a lot of reserve guys in, so you're seeing Georgia Tech start to move the ball a little more successfully than they did, obviously, the rest of the game. Yeah, tough time.
6-play, 44-yard drive. 2 minutes and 56 seconds for Quay Searcy to find his 3rd rushing touchdown of the season. To Ohio State puts a wrinkle in a lot of things, and Shea Patterson just threw a pick for the Wolverines. So you've got a handful of teams if status quo holds, looking for one spot. It'd be really interesting to see what happens if Georgia knocks off Alabama next week. Then you have Clemson and Notre Dame. And then one more spot for the loser of the SEC championship game if it's Alabama, Oklahoma, or Ohio State.
Yeah, imagine if Ohio State wins today and then
beats Northwestern
in the Big Ten. So they're a Big Ten champ. You have Oklahoma could be a championship team as well. And then you have Alabama, who I don't think there's anybody that thinks they're not one of the best four in the country. This is nightmare for the committee. Absolute nightmare.
You don't think Clemson's going to lose the ACC championship?
No, I mean, they absolutely could. I think that's the least probable.
Yeah. Fields picked up the busted play, trying to take off with it, and finally gets taken down after a gain of 2. Cole, what do you think? I mean, do we still have more chaos to come?
All right, so we're sitting here, we're weighing a one-loss Big Ten champ in Ohio State. We're weighing a one-loss Big 12 champ Oklahoma. Yep. And then potentially a one-loss divisional champion Alabama. We're weighing those three against each other.
Yeah.
Because Georgia's going to be in the right. You're right. If they beat Alabama, so I'm with Jordan. I think, and if you asked any member of that committee one-on-one, and we've all three done the mock selection process, is Alabama one of the best 4 teams in college football after they would have lost that game to Georgia? I don't think any of them could really tell themselves no and believe it.
They go with an end around. This is Jason Stanley. I guess part of that would depend, if Georgia does beat Alabama next week, on how that game plays out.
Yeah, I was just going to say how if, and we're going down a rabbit hole, if Alabama were to lose to Georgia, the manner in which they lost, because then you'd be weighing it against the manner in which Oklahoma lost to Texas, or the manner in which Ohio State lost to Purdue.
Yeah.
So, and that was pretty egregious.
And we're going to learn a lot this week, because you think about Ohio State just beat the team that they've had at 4 for what, since the entire time. So that's,
well, not yet, but they're going to.
So if they get that win, Oklahoma just beat a team that they've had in their top 15 for the entire time. So who moves up the most?
They go with the end around again. I just for clarification purposes. So we know, okay, I'm going to go on a limb here. We know that Alabama is a great team.
Yes.
They're the best team in college football right now. That doesn't mean that they can't lose next week to Georgia. But let's say they do in a tightly contested game. Are we sure, 100% positive, that Georgia gets in over Alabama?
Yes, a one-loss SEC champion, with that one loss being on the road at LSU, who was number 3 in that committee's eyes at some point, and the committee has probably held higher than any other 2-loss team this year. Yeah, I absolutely believe Georgia's in, no matter what, 100%.
Good, just for clarification, and here's James Cook trying to put an exclamation point on this one. He lost it on the way down, it seems, but also lost his hand warmers. Justin Schaefer hustles down to recover it. It's a gain of 27. Urban Meyer is trying to go 7-0 against Michigan. Ohio State leads that game 41-19. This guy's good.
He's explosive. He's got to hold on to that ball. And I know that's not a fumble. His arm hit, before the ball came out, but that's now twice that he's been involved in a play where the ball's hit the ground. Once right after a handoff. Can't have that happen. As a true freshman, you can be explosive, you can be dynamic, but if you can't hold on the football, you're not going to get any meaningful time.
This will go as a pass. Akil Crumpton takes it from Fields and is able to finally turn the corner and pick up a first down. Brought down by Christian Campbell and Desmond Branch. It's a 12-yard gain. LSU and A&M, a matchup of top 25 teams tonight at Kyle Field and College Station. Taylor Zarzer, former Georgia offensive lineman Matt Stinchcomb, and Chris Budden will be on the call.
You think about a game like that, you start nitpicking schedules. Georgia fans need to be cheering for LSU tonight.
Yeah, there's some thought that there's some Bulls out there that would love to match up Texas A&M and Texas with a New Year's 6 appearance possible.
Cook carries inside the 20.
Did help the committee, Washington State losing last night. Because, I mean, the scenarios we're going through, if Georgia wins, there's a scenario where you got 2 conference champions possibly and Alabama for that 4th spot, or maybe if Alabama were to knock off Georgia, Washington State, Ohio State, Oklahoma could be 3 Power 5 conference champions, all with 1 loss, and 2 of them would have got left out. I mean, it's an interesting year for the College Football Playoff Committee. Still a lot to be decided here. Ohio State up 41-19.
Washington and Utah will meet for the Pac-12 title next week. Winner of that one goes to the Rose Bowl. Nowhere to go for Akil Crumpton, the senior from Philadelphia. Loss of 2.
So all we really know at this point is no Pac-12.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
And I don't know that UCF will be any closer to being in the competition after the disastrous injury to Mackenzie Melton, their quarterback, who's been the leader of the team for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that was terrible to see, especially because Washington State losing kind of helped them out. If they were going to have an outside chance at making the playoff, which I don't think would have come to fruition anyway, but tough to see a dynamic player like Mackenzie Milton go down with a terrible injury.
Wow, Fields caught the Karam pass, and he ends up losing yardage. Desmond Branch with a fine play up front by Georgia Tech.
We saw Taquan Marshall earlier have a ball deflected up in the air. He did the right thing, knock it down. This is one they'll break down on film, and Jim Chaney will talk to Justin Fields either in film or maybe on the phone in just a few minutes and say, hey, I know you want to make a play, but let's knock this one down. Don't make a bad play worse. Incompletion's a 0-yard gain and a 0-yard loss, and we're headed the wrong way. Just knock that one down.
48-yard attempt for Rodrigo Blankenship. He is 7 of 8 in field goals between 40 and 49 yards this season. I have never seen a kicker be such a fan favorite. That one just off the upright. When he was announced pregame, the entire student section went nuts. The entire stadium did. And a rare miss from Hot Rod. Left it just a bit right. And Georgia fails to convert. Good to see him smiling.
Speaking of one of the best dressed guys in SEC Network,
Peter Burns,
named Tom Hart.
Oh. This one thrown away. Devontae Wyatt chasing Taquan Marshall.
Two things I think I've seen over the last 2 weeks for Georgia that bode well moving forward to the matchup against Alabama. Last week, seeing Justin Fields throw the football the way he did. We all knew it was capable, but you put that on film, now Alabama's got to defend that. And I do believe that Georgia will need Justin Fields for a few drives as a changeup, as a package quarterback, but a package quarterback that can really stretch the field as well, and Alabama will have to defend him as such. That's the first thing.
Screen to Jerry Howard, goes for a Tech first down.
The second thing today, and Georgia Tech, because of what they do on offense, is a tough team to get after the quarterback against. But that's one thing I've needed to see from Georgia. They're last in the SEC in sacks. They have 3 today. They're last in the SEC in tackles for loss. This is something they're going to need to do against Alabama. They have to be disruptive on the front four. The times that we've seen Tua Tagovailoa be human and not a robot that just throws completions and touchdowns is when he's been pressured. Mississippi State, they got after him. They got his jersey dirty, and he made mistakes. Forced to throw against LSU against pressure. Threw an interception the play after getting hit against Mississippi State. This Georgia front 4 and front 7 are going to have to find ways to get after Tua Tagovailoa. And I think they showed today that they're capable of doing so, even though it's a lesser opponent. Sometimes that confidence, sometimes seeing it on tape, can bode well for going into a game confident that you can accomplish that.
Cole, is Tua healthy?
I believe he is. He played without that knee brace against Citadel, went the entire way. So I think he's as healthy as he's going to get. I think his knee injury probably is one where he's going to need some rest in the offseason, but he's as healthy as he's going to get right now.
Beautiful route run by Brad Stewart, and the senior Makes the grab and takes a lick from Otis Reese.
Yeah, I'll add one more to what Jordan threw in there. And you got Lamont Galliard at center, who is one of the better centers in this league. Solomon Kinley, Ben Cleveland, Cade Mays, Trey Hill, whoever it is, whatever two are standing next to Lamont Galliard when they line up against Quentin Williams may be as important or more important than anything else Jordan just threw out, because 92 for Alabama will wreck your game plan in a hurry.
He's a bad man. A big, violent, bad man. And they're going to have to find ways to double team him. But even still, we've seen LSU, Mississippi State have big physical offensive linemen try to double team him, and he cut through them like me putting butter on my dinner rolls at Thanksgiving. So
I don't know if that's how the analogy works, but
it goes something like that.
Yes.
You could go with
knife through butter, I was just, Don't at me, Tom Hart.
Under a minute to go. Georgia Tech airing it out right now. There's Cersei.
Sometimes I just pull things out of my head.
Cole, how was your Thanksgiving dinner?
I didn't pull anything out of my head, but it was good. Other than splinters from Jenga blocks.
Timeout taken by Georgia Tech. 44 seconds left. This game was starting as and at the half looked like it could be one of the most lopsided, if not the most lopsided game in the history of the rivalry. And one thing Georgia Tech was able to do by using some clock is avoid that embarrassment. It still remains to be seen just how many games Paul Johnson has left as a Georgia head coach. Maybe this is there he decides to hang it up. They did not perform today like he wanted to. He is an uber competitive coach. I think a lot of people thought this game would be more competitive today.
I'm one of them. I did think it was going to be much more competitive. And if you're Johnson, you got to be frustrated because you always go up against opponents that are more physically dominant than you are. Maybe more athletic at times, but the scheme always finds ways to win, and they didn't today.
It's supposed to be the great equalizer. It was anything but this afternoon.
Yeah, and really that's a credit to Mel Tucker and Kirby Smart for the game plan and really the teaching. Not as much the game plan, it's the teaching that they did all week, that they've done for a few days.
Jump ball caught, end zone, Brad Stewart.
Just as we're giving praise, the jump ball to Brad Stewart for the touchdown. Boy, he's had some big plays the last few weeks. 31-yard touchdown sealed the win versus Miami. Had a 37-yard diving catch for a go-ahead score last week. He's their go-to guy. And Marshall threw him a 50-50 ball, and he got it.
So the senior in his final rivalry game will find a score on a touchdown pass from Taquan Marshall. Wesley Wells, first product of Lumpkin County High School to ever score points in an FBS game, drills another point after.
In what world did you expect Georgia Tech to have just 37 less passing yards than rushing yards in a game?
Yeah, no.
It's a good job. This is that half roll that they've been trying to get going all day, taking shots downfield, and Marshall does a great job. I mean, he knows where he's got one-on-one coverage. Brad Stewart's not overly big at 6'1", but he's a guy that is probably their, actually not probably, is their best receiver, and Marshall trusts him to go up and make plays.
William Poole, the backup defensive back, was in the secondary that time. Brad's grandpa was a fullback at Auburn, legendary high school coach in the Savannah area. Uncle played at South Carolina. He was a late addition to that recruiting class a few years ago for Paul Johnson, but a great addition. Squib kick, and Georgia will take a knee. Post game, we got plenty of coverage coming your way. We'll take it back to the studio for a bit, and then we'll hear from Jake Fromm and Kirby Smart. Georgia can now fully turn their attention to Alabama in the SEC championship game. And once again, Nick Saban's coaching tree will try to find a win against the master, and not only an SEC title on the line, but a berth in the college football playoff next week in Atlanta.
Quarterback Justin Fields takes a knee.
Fields will finish it off by taking a knee.
Play of the game today. The final score.
A pair of fourth-quarter touchdowns for Georgia Tech makes it look a lot better than it was. Georgia led this game at one point 45-7. And Georgia goes to 11-1 on the year. A date with Alabama to come. And then at worst, a New Year's Six bowl game. Perhaps the sugar for Georgia. Georgia Tech is one of a handful of ACC teams with just about the same record. Their bowl destination remains to be seen. Cole standing by with the winning head coach. Here's Kirby Smart.
Coach Smart is dominating a performance against the triple opposite as I've seen. How did that happen?
Hard work. You know, I got about three or four names for you. Prather Hudson, Erdman, Van Tifflin. These are all the guys that are selfless, and they cut players all week. Those guys deserve all the credit.
You cap off a one-loss regular season to do it here at home against your rival. How does that feel?
Well, I'm just happy for our seniors. They worked so hard, and we've talked about the tale of two seasons, and really this group right here has really balled in and played hard today.
This group includes a group of seniors that have done a lot for your program. What did they specifically mean to you?
Well, it meant a lot to me because they bought in. You know, they came in under a different head coach, and they've all bought in. Really good kids, and stuck around, and, man, they fought.
How do you turn the page now to Alabama in the SEC championship game?
Just turn on the tape. We got a great program, great team. We respect Alabama a lot. Got a good football team.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Cole, fantastic work. Great preparation for Kirby Smart's team. Puts him in position to win this game. Jake Fromm's running of this